So these are the compensation business processes. We have request compensation change. We have propose compensation higher. Okay, so these are the different business processes that we'll be discussing today. Request compensation change, propose compensation higher, propose compensation change, and request one-time payment. I'll start with the most obvious one. Request one-time payment. So we will use this request one-time payment business process whenever we want to pay an employee a one-time payment amount. So it's very simple. Whenever you want to pay an employee an OTP payment, OTP plan, any kind of payment, like it can be retention bonus, it can be signing bonus, it can be any kind of a one-time compensation payment, you will use a request one-time payment business process. So this business process is a standalone business process, meaning you can initiate this business process as a task. So when you initiate a task, there is a task called as a request one-time payment. When you initiate that task, this business process will automatically be triggered. So it is not used as a sub process in any business process. You can directly initiate this business process as a task. Similarly, we have request compensation change. This is an ad hoc compensation change to an employee. So if you want to change the compensation details of an employee on an ad hoc basis, so let's say that the compensation partners see that. So request compensation change is used whenever you want to request a compensation ad hoc for an employee. So let's say an employee, an HR partner realizes that one of the employee has an incorrect salary. They can do a request comp change and change the compensation for the employee at an ad hoc basis. So this is also a standalone business process, which means you can trigger the business process via a task. There is a task called as request comp change, and you can trigger this business process via task. It is not used in any other business process as a sub process. Now, these two business processes, propose compensation higher and propose compensation change, these two business processes are used as sub processes in Workday. So propose compensation higher is used as a part of hire business process. So whenever you are hiring an employee, you will be initiating propose compensation higher. And propose compensation change is when you will be initiating a change of transaction. So when you do a change of transaction, you will have propose compensation change as a part of change of transaction. So these two business processes can only be initiated via their parent process. So for propose compensation higher, the parent process is hire employee, whereas for propose compensation change, the parent process is change job. Now, the reason I have listed all these business processes down this way is because I want you to understand a primary difference between these business processes. One of the primary differences, some of them are standalone. So which ones are standalone? Request compensation change and request one-time payment. These are standalone business processes, whereas these are sub-processes. What are sub-processes? Request compensation higher and request compensation change. These two are sub-process in Workday. Another difference between these two is, this is what the main difference is. For request one-time payment, it doesn't matter if the employee, if you are defining an eligibility rule on the one-time payment plan, Only the ones that are eligible for the employee will be shown on the compensation screen. Similarly, even for request compensation change, if you are going to add any compensation on the employee's compensation snapshot, it will only you will only be able to add the compensation plans that are eligible for the worker. Now, the next thing is it will not default the values. Meaning, let's take an employee, Jack. Okay, now try to understand this. Let's take this employee. At the time this employee was hired, this employee was eligible for a salary plan and was eligible for an allowance plan. Okay, this allowance plan was, let's say, transportation allowance. Okay, they had a salary plan, they had an allowance plan. This transportation allowance was only eligible if the employee was staying at, let's say, a specific location. So this allowance plan was location dependent. Only if the employee is staying at a specific location, they will be eligible for a particular allowance plan. Now, what would happen if the employee, let's say the employee has changed the location, you have changed the location of this allowance plan. Okay, does that mean Workday will automatically remove this allowance plan from the employee's compensation? It will not. You have to initiate an event. So all these compensation plans are very event driven. They are event driven, meaning when you assign something to an employee and you try to you change the eligibility rule. Let's say when you configure the elements plan, you configured an eligibility rule. Once you assign the elements plan to Jack, you will go and change the eligibility rule. That does not mean that the elements plan will automatically be removed from the employee's compensation. You have to initiate an event like a change of transaction or a you know, you have to initiate a transaction. So mostly it is only going to be change job, because that is when the proposed compensation change will be initiated. You will only initiate proposed compensation hire only at the time of hiring the employee. So you have to initiate an event in order for that particular compensation plan to be automatically removed from the employee's compensation. Okay, now if you change the compensation, it will not automatically remove. So because it is not an event driven action. Now, even though you initiate a request compensation change, Workday will not remove any compensation plan that the employee is not eligible for. The reason being, request compensation change will not evaluate the compensation eligibility. Request compensation change will not evaluate the employee's compensation eligibility. That means, let's say an employee was hired. At the time the employee was hired, let's say there was salary plan of, let's say, 5,000 USD. There was an allowance plan one, let's say, 1,000 US dollars. Allowance plan two of 2,000 USD. And after hiring, let's say 3 months down the line, the eligibility for allowance plan 2 changed. Okay, so they have changed the allowance plan, which would make Jack no longer eligible for this allowance plan. However, there was no change to the Jack's compensation. So Jack will continue to receive 2,000 USD because we have not initiated any event. Okay, now let's say an HR partner is going to do a request compensation change transaction. So when they do this request com change transaction, does Workday remove this allowance plan 2 from the employee's profile because they are no longer eligible for that particular allowance plan? What Workday does is Workday will not remove it. It will just keep it as it is, which means Workday is not going request compensation change is an ad hoc compensation change, meaning it is only this particular task is only accessed by a specific set of people who are like a comp partner or a comp admin, and they have the authority to change the value. They can change this 5,000 to 15,000, or they can change this 10,000 to 11,000. Okay, they can just change anything. However, what it does not do is it will not look at the existing compensation plans and say that, hey, this plan is no longer eligible for the worker, remove this plan. It will not do that. It will just look at the existing plans, and it will let the person who has initiated the transaction to change whatever they would like to change on the compensation. Now, coming to the other two compensation transactions, other two business processes, let's talk about request comp hire business process. In request compensation hire business process, whenever at the time of hire, when you initiate the propose comp hire business process, not request comp hire, it is propose comp hire. When you initiate the propose comp hire business process, what Workday does is Workday will check, okay, if the employee is eligible for a compensation package. It will first check the compensation package the employee is eligible for. If the employee is eligible for a compensation package, it will see if they are eligible for a unique compensation package. Let's say there are 5 compensation packages that are configured. The employee should only be eligible for one of the compensation package. They should not be eligible for more than one. Only then the value will default. So let's say the employee is eligible for one of the compensation packages. Next, it is going to check what are the grades that are eligible for the employee. Okay, what are the compensation plans that are eligible for the employee? If we have any custom compensation bases that are eligible for the employee. Now, based on the eligibility rules configured for all these 3 components, Workday will automatically assign. It will automatically default the values on the compensation screen for the employee at the time of hiring the employee. This means that proposed compensation change will support defaulting of the data. So the person need not enter which compensation plans the employee is eligible for or which grade the employee is eligible for. Workday would automatically default that information. They will automatically trigger and add that information as a part of the compensation. Now, similarly, proposed compensation change. Proposed compensation change is a part of change of business process. So whenever you initiate a change job, like let's say you are transferring the employee to a different location. So when you are initiating a change job and when you trigger the proposed comp change, what Workday does is, now let us take the same scenario of Jack. Jack has, let's say, salary, allowance 1, allowance 2. Okay, they have salary, they have allowance 1, and they have allowance 2. Let's say allowance 2 is no longer eligible for Jack. Okay, we are no longer eligible for allowance 2. What Workday does is it will automatically remove this allowance plan. It will say this one is no longer eligible. Let us also suppose allowance plan 1 was 1000 USD, but as per the change, let's say the employee is moving to a location where the allowance value should be 2000 USD. Workday will automatically change this value to 2000 USD. Okay, so what that means is Workday will evaluate the compensation eligibility at this point. It will evaluate if the compensation plans that are currently assigned to this employee is still eligible or not. So two things. One is, are the current compensation components still eligible for the employee? If it is eligible, it will keep it. If it is not eligible, it will remove it. Additionally, it will also check, hey, if the existing compensation plans Are there any new compensation plans that the employee is eligible for based on these transaction changes? If there are any additional compensation plans the employee is eligible for, those compensation details will also get defaulted for the worker. So this way, Workday is going to evaluate the compensation eligibility for the worker, and it would default the right compensation details for the worker. So three business processes: the request compensation change and request one-time payment. These two business processes will not, these are standalone business processes. These will not trigger any kind of compensation eligibility. Whereas proposed compensation higher and proposed compensation change, these both will evaluate the comp eligibility and it will default the value for the person. So if there is a change in the eligibility, it will automatically add or remove the compensation components that are assigned to the worker. So this is a primary difference between these two business processes. In the interview, you might come across this question. So if you are applying for a role as a compensation consultant, they will ask you about these business processes and what is the difference between these business processes. So one of the primary difference that you have to mention is the compensation eligibility when it gets evaluated. Proposed comp change and proposed comp hire are the two business processes where where Workday will evaluate the compensation eligibility, whereas request comp change will not evaluate workers' comp eligibility. That means if a worker is not no longer eligible for a compensation plan, Workday will not automatically remove that. You can remove it manually, but Workday will not automatically remove that plan from the employee's compensation. So this is the request compensation change business process. So whenever you want to request a comp change, it will trigger this particular business process. And this is how you can initiate it. So let me go to any employee. So let's say I want to initiate a compensation change for this particular employee. I can directly go to their actions here and say compensation request compensation change. Now you can select the effective date. Now in this particular screen, Workday is not going to check if the employee is still eligible for this grade or this grade profile, or it is going to check if the employee has, the same hourly plan. Is he still eligible for an hourly plan? It will not check all those details. It will just let you change the values here. So if you want to change the value from 16 to 36, it will let you change it. If you want to add any allowance plan, so you can see that it has a list of all the compensation plans available. You can even assign Japan compensation plan. It does not care, because Workday will not evaluate if the employee is eligible for any kind of compensation or is not eligible for a compensation plan. It will let you add any comp plan or remove any comp plan from the structure using this particular change. So usually this particular business process is only given to compensation administrators or uh, uh, you know, compensation partners, and only they will be able to initiate it. So the managers will not have any kind of access to initiate this business process. It will only be available with the compensation administrators, this particular business process. Whereas we have the other two business process, which is even similarly, the request one-time payment is also similar. You go to the actions, you go to compensation, and you can see request one-time payment business process. So you can initiate a one-time payment on any day. So let's say I want to make a one-time payment as of today. I can select today's date here, and I can select add the one-time payment here, and I can initiate. So I can select the list from the list of plans, which plans are eligible for the worker. I'll just select the plan and then I can submit it. That will send out a one-time payment for the employee as of the effective date I chose. So if I say I want to provide like a 5,000 spot bonus for the employee, I can make that payment through one-time payment, since it is a one-time activity. So that is not a recurring compensation payment. Now the other two business processes, like proposed compensation higher. So this particular business process is is initiated as a sub process. For it is initiated as a process for what? For higher business process. So you will see proposed compensation higher initiated as a part of higher business process. If I take any employee, for example, let me see if I can check out the worker history for Tom. So let me go to worker history here, and let us see if this person was hired directly using an EIV or using an actual proper hire transaction. So let me go to worker history here, and let's see hire. So you can see here proposed compensation higher. This particular step was submitted, and as a part of this step, you will say, okay, which compensation package the employee is eligible for, which grade the employee is eligible for, which grade profile the employee is eligible for. Workday is going to automatically determine this value and and automatically propose the changes here. So it will say that it will automatically assign hourly compensation package. It would automatically assign hourly non-union compensation grade and the grade profile. Even when it comes to the compensation basis, you can see there is a custom comp basis the employee has been assigned, which is total pay hourly. And depending upon the configuration, these all details are automatically assigned, meaning the person who is initiating the transaction, they don't have to think about which grade or which package or which grade profile they have to assign. Whatever details need to be assigned will automatically be assigned for the employee. Now once this assignment has happened, they can go ahead and submit it and go through the next step. Similarly, for propose let's see if this employee has any change of transactions. So let me go back here to so we don't have any change of transactions for this employee, but I can initiate a change job. So let's say I go to job change and transfer or do a change job, and here let's say I'm making a change. Let's say I'm doing a data change, so I'll just change the location. So right now he is in Calgary. I'll just change this to, let's say, Toronto. Or maybe let's say I'm going to change this to New York. So let's start this process. So as a part of change of business process, you can see if I scroll down here. So this is like a consolidated template where you will be like filling out a form step by step. I'm directly jumping into the compensation so that I want to show you what is happening now. Now, like I said, Workday is going to evaluate the change to the compensation of the employee. So what, as a part of proposed compensation change, it is going to check if the existing plans are eligible for the worker and if there are any new compensation plans that are eligible. So if I take Tom Care for example here, we are checking if Tom is eligible for. So let me take Tom Care. So we know that Tom had hourly package, and then he had hourly grade and some grade profile. What Workday is going to check is Tom still eligible for this package? Is Tom still eligible for this grade? If there is a grade profile, is Tom still eligible for the grade profile? Then they have the compensation plans. Is Tom still eligible for those compensation plans? It would check this, and if it is eligible, it will assign it. If it is not, if it is eligible, it would assign it. If it is not eligible, it will remove it. So let us look at the compensation over here. You can see that, you can see some of these. If you see an X mark, that means it has removed. So you see that the pay range has been changed. So there is a compensation package, there is a compensation grade, but the grade profile got removed, but there was no other compensation grade profile added here. So probably there is no other grade profile, either they are not eligible. So you can see there is no other grade profile that is configured for this particular situation. So that's why nothing got defaulted here. So it's again, this will kind of let you know that, okay, for this particular scenario, when you are changing the location of the employee from to New York, in New York uh, there are no scenarios where there is an hourly employee in New York. So okay, So here you can see also the currency got changed from CAD to USD based on the compensation grade. There is no compensation grade profile that is defaulted because there is none available. Even if I go to the rest of the compensation, this all looks good. The values for here, it has not changed. So um, this has to be USD. So you'll have to change this to USD here, and you can also change the value. So the pay range has automatically updated. You have to update the currency here. And if you want to add any other allowances, you can see that you can directly add them. But as per the current eligibility rules configured for this particular worker, you don't have any rules or any allowance plans that this employee is currently eligible for. Hence, it is not updating. But whatever is the values available here, it would automatically remove it. I'm going to not go through with this transaction for this worker because this is a different tenant. However, this is how Workday is going to evaluate proposed compensation change, and proposed compensation higher is when Workday is going to evaluate the eligibility rules. Request compensation change and request one-time payment, it will not evaluate the default eligibility assignments. It would just take whatever is available and let you edit or change whatever you want to change as a part of that particular transaction. The compensation plans report will give you the list of all the compensation plans available in Workday. So you can directly run this particular report and see, okay, these are the salary plans, these are the hourly plans. So it will give you a comprehensive view of all the compensation plans available in Workday. So whichever are configured, you will be able to view all those compensation plans along with the eligibility rule, comp element, and the packages, whatever is configured. Let us look at some of the other standard reports. If I say compensation plan assignment audit, so this particular audit report will be helpful for you to check how many employees are assigned to a specific compensation plan. So for example, if I say I want to check how many employees are assigned to 11's holiday. If I run this report, I can see no, none of them is assigned, but let's see hourly plans. So for this, you have to give the correct start date. So as of which date, so compensation plan assignment audit is usually used when you want to check um, who has been assigned which compensation plan as of a specific date. So if you have to provide the right date, the assignment date, and as of that date, how many employees are added that particular compensation plan, you can check those compensation plans. The other compensation reports, we will directly create some of the custom compensation reports when we are discussing the reporting. So that is the next topic that we'll be covering about how we can create custom reports, how we can look at the standard reports. I can look at all the standard reports. I think over here, if I have the sitemap over here, I can go to the sitemap and look at all the actions and all the reports that are available for me. So if I go here, you can see that I have, let us move to compensation. So you can see there are these many reports that are available. So these are all the reports that are available for Logan McNeil, and these are all the tasks that are available. So sitemap will give you like a comprehensive view of reports and tasks that are available for the employee. So I can go to any of these tasks. Like for example, if I want to check out the compensation grades for an employee, I can just click on the compensation grades and look at all the compensation grades that are available. So this report will give you a list of all the compensation grades. If I say hourly here and click OK, it will give me the list of all hourly compensation grades. So you can see for this particular compensation grade, we have, this is the pay range that is maintained, and these are the grade profiles that are maintained. There are 79 grade profiles within that particular uh, report of compensation grade. So similarly, you can go to your sitemap and you can explore all the reports that are available here. So obviously there are more than 100 and There are about 149 reports. So 44 plus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 149. So there are total 149 reports which you can explore. So use your test tenant, go to the profile and look at the sitemap, and then you can get this particular screen. So it's not just the compensation, you can look at any other detail, like let's say you want to check out what are some of the reports and tasks that are available as a part of, let's say, career hub. Or we just have one single task here. Let me just scroll down to hire. So in hire you have these reports. These are the standard reports that are available, and these are some of the tasks that are available. So hire employee, contract, request worker, start date correction. So these are some of the tasks that are available when you are hiring a worker. So you can go here and explore job change. You want to add contract, you want to add probation period or exit interview, employees with contract. These are some of the reports that are available, and these are some of the tasks that are available. So I would want you to go back to your tenant, go back to your training tenant and explore the sitemap, go through some of the existing reports that you want to check out, and let me know if you have any questions here. The next topic, which is reports. Reporting in Workday is one of the most one of the best features that we have in Workday. Workday has excellent reporting capabilities. For example, if you compare other tools like SAP to Workday, if you want to create like a report in SAP, it will take a lot of time because it will require some of the ABAP programming, and then they have to create a report. Whereas if you want to create a report in Workday, you can create a report instantly, almost instantly. You can easily create a custom report in Workday and deploy that in the tenant. So in Workday, we have two types of reports. One is the standard reports. One is the standard reports. Standard reports are the reports that are already available, delivered by Workday. So when you go into the sitemap, you see there is a section called as reports. So these are the delivered reports by Workday. The second type of reports are called as custom reports. So if you want to create a report that is not already available in the standard report list, at that time you'll be using a custom report. So the custom report will give you an option to create a report in a way that you would like to configure. So you can have your own fields on the report, your own columns, your own type of filters and prompts. All that you can configure on a custom report. Now in custom report, there are multiple types of reports. You have now some of the types are like simple report. You have advanced report. You have matrix report, you have inbox report, you have trended reports, you have search report, you have composite report. So these are some of the different types of reporting that you have. As a part of this particular session, we will only be I'll only be giving you an overview of simple reports and advanced report. I will not be discussing these reports with you. If you are interested to learn reporting more, you can sign up for a detailed session just for advanced reporting. So all these topics would be covered as a part of advanced reporting in Workday. We will only be concentrating on two types of reports, which are simple reports and advanced report. So what is a simple report? If you just want to derive a report from the fields, the existing fields, so you don't have to look for a business object, just based on the fields. If you just want to add a field and then look for the value of that particular field, that is when you create a simple report. Let us just go and check out a simple report in Workday. All right, let me just search for create custom report. There you go. Thank you very much. So let's say I'm going to create a custom simple test report. So here you will be using, so this is where here you will enter the report name, which is the name of the report. here you will choose the type of report. So I'm going to be choosing a simple report. Like you said, like I said, there are other types of reports, like you have advanced report, composite, matrix, and box search, transpose, trending. I'm going to use a simple report here. You can choose, if you want a temporary report, you can select it as a temporary report. If you select it as a temporary report, Workday is going to expire this after 40, after like 30 days. So you have this validity for 30 days. After 30 days, this particular report will get inactivated and you can delete that report. So I don't want it as a temporary report. The data source. Now this is the most important thing, which data source you would want to use. So depending on the data source that you use, you will be able to create different fields for the report. So the data source will hold the different fields which are available for you to extract the values from the report. So let's say I'm going to use a data source called workers here. Let me say all workers. So I'm using all workers data source. Optimized for performance. There are two ways. So the optimized for performance, this is based on in Workday we have something called as indexed data sources, and then we have non-indexed data sources. Okay. So an indexed data source, what do you understand when you hear the term indexed? Have you heard indexing anywhere else? What exactly is an index? So basically index is what? If you are going to, let's say, one to, you're indexing this way, right? So you can easily say that, hey, where is a specific data? Oh, it is in index number 3. You can easily fetch that data. So the fetching time is faster because you know that that particular data is in index 3. So whenever you are searching for a website on Google, if Google has already indexed that particular website, it shows up on the top results. So that is called as an indexing. So indexing meaning Workday has already certain data sources or certain objects which it indexes, meaning that the value of that data will be indexed. It is faster. So the value, fetching the value from those business objects will be faster because those are indexed. Now non-indexed data sources are where the data sources still exist in Workday, but those are not indexed, meaning Workday is going to go through the entire database before it fetches that those specific detail. So when it comes to indexing, Workday knows that, okay, only, so let's say this is a database. Okay, so let's say this value is indexed. Workday knows that these values are stored in this particular area of the database. So when you are looking for when you are running the report, Workday does not have to go through the entire database to fetch this particular detail. So the fetching time will be faster because Workday is going to directly go into this area and fetch that value for the worker, and it will see that report. Whereas when it goes to non-index report, Workday will have to check this area, this area, this area. So the search time is going to be relatively slower when it is compared to the index data sources. Now you might be thinking, then in that case, why do we want to use non-indexed data sources? So there are a very limited number of indexed data sources that are available in Workday. You don't have a lot of indexed sources, hence you might not be able to use an index data source every time you create a report. It will depend upon it will depend from scenario to scenario. If you have index data sources from which you want to create a report, you can use it, or else you will have to go with the non-indexed. So whenever you are creating a report, if you're going to say optimized for performance, so if I select optimized by performance and then search for all workers, you can see that all the data sources that are going to be displayed to me will have this particular sign. You see there is a like a bolt. There is a small symbol over here. It seems like electricity bolt. Okay, the reason we have that is it says that all these data sources are indexed, meaning the time it will take to fetch the data from these data sources will be relatively faster compared to other data sources. Now, the problem with this is you might not find every single field that you're looking for in indexed data sources. So if you're going to use an index data source, all the fields that you create, so if I go to click OK, all the fields that you add in the report. So you'll be adding different fields here. You will only be able to add indexed fields in the data source. You won't be able to add non-indexed fields in the data sources. So let's say if I go here and so if I want to add any of these details, you can only add, you only have a very limited number of details over here. So usually you only use indexed data source when you are absolutely sure that all the data, all the fields in that particular report has an indexed value that you can use. Otherwise, you will not be using it. So there are only specific scenarios where you use it. I'm going to again create a test worker detail report. So I'm going to use non-indexed data source and I'll say all workers here. So I choose an all workers. So this is a non-indexed data source. You can see the data source type is standard here. I'm going to click OK. This is a simple report. And let's say I want to just return few values, like I want the employee ID, I want the employee name, I'll say legal name, and let's say position. And I can click OK. So this is like a very simple report. If I run this report, you will see that, okay, the employee ID, the legal name. So you will use this particular these kind of simple reports when you know that you already have the fields. So you can only add, you can directly add fields over here. So when you know that you already have the fields where you already have the data, you just need to fetch data from those fields. In those cases, you will create these simple reports in Workday. Now, most of the times, you will not be using simple reports. So simple reports are rarely created. 97% of the time, you'll be creating something called as an advanced report in Workday. So let us discuss how the advanced report look like. So I'm going to say again, custom test report. Now, when it comes to advanced report, you have an additional option to provide the business object. So let's say here I'm going to say all workers here, and so the same data source, but this time you'll see there is something called as a primary business object here. In this business object, if you want to extract all the details of the worker, you will provide worker business object here. So in an advanced report, you have the feasibility to provide different types of business objects. So for an example, I am using workers here. I can also put position over here. So instead of just extracting all the values from a single primary business object, I have the option to change the business object and extract, let's say, for this particular field, I'm going to extract all the details of the worker business object. So I can add it this way. I'll say employee ID, employee, let's say legal name as a position. And from the position, I want to, let's say, extract the reference ID of the position this way. So here what I'm doing, from worker business object, I'm extracting these details, and from position object, I'm extracting the reference ID of the position. Now, when I execute this particular report over here, okay, so I'll just run this report, and you can see that there are 644 employees in this particular tenant, and it will give me the names of all the employees here, their employee IDs, their positions, and the position reference ID. This particular reference ID is coming directly from the position. So in a advanced report, you have the ability to change the business objects that are part of the data sources. So in all workers data source, you have a couple of business objects which you can use. So you can add all those business objects over here, whereas in simple report you don't have that feasibility. Now, what additional details, what additional changes that you can do, or additional options that you have over here is, if you want to sort the entire report. So let's say you want to sort it based on the name of the employees. If I go here, if I select legal name, and if I want it to be sorted in ascending order, you can sort the entire report in ascending order. If you want to add any specific filters, so let's say I want to I want the list of report. However, I only want employees. Let's say I only want those employees for whom the hire date is greater than or equal to first of, let's say, 01/01/2020. Let's see. So I'm adding a filter over here that is going to say that, hey, this particular report is only going to extract hires for me whose employees for me whose hire date is greater than or equal to 1st of January 2020. Now when I execute this report, it is only going to give me a subset of employees. These are, you can see that there are only 146 employees here. So all these employees were hired after January 1st, 2020. Let us add that particular value into the report. So if I go to edit here, I will say that, okay, I want the hire date of the workers. So let me add a business object here. I'll say hire date. Partly from experience. So reporting goes hand in hand with, you should know. So based on your experience, right, you need to know which business objects will have which value. So this worker business object, if I open this business object here, it will have different fields available. So now worker business object is a pretty big object. So it is going to take a while for this workday to get the list of all the fields available. So just give it a moment. But you can see there are somewhere around 4,000. I'm just going to cancel this. So there are 4,604 fields that are available. Now, how do you know which field to choose? Initially, it is going to be somewhat of a hit and error, trial and error for you initially, until you get a hang around. Okay, these are the business objects that you have. These are the fields that you have. Because obviously, I cannot teach you 4,604 business objects. But from your experience, you are going to learn that, hey, if you want to get this particular report, you know that this particular value is available in worker object in a specific field, and then you will be able to create that report with those fields. And then additionally, there are a few other details around how you can choose it, like you have uh, within fields, you know that, okay, which what are the related business objects or related objects. From those objects, you will be able to understand, okay, is this particular worker business object has these different related objects here. So if I go here, you can say related business objects. You can see links to related business objects, links from related business objects. So all this is part of advanced reporting. So I don't want to get into all these details. It will probably kind of confuse you at this point. But then it would come with experience, if I have to say. Like, I can certainly teach you this. I can certainly teach you some of the basics and how to look for a data source. But then it will require you to have some understanding, a good understanding of HCM, so that you can get into these topics. But for now, so let's say you want, at least this much you can understand. Let's say you want to extract a report that is dependent on the worker. So it is related to some kind of a worker detail. So can you tell me one of the worker detail that might be available? Just guess any kind of detail. So I have added employee ID, legal name, position, hire date. What else? What is it? Okay, you have to be more specific. Compensation is a very big umbrella. Okay, let's say base pay. So you can see that there are a lot of details over here, base pay. So you need to also understand. If I go to the related actions over here, you can see some of these are calculated fields, but some of these fields are delivered. So you can see total base pay based on scheduled weekly hours. So there are different base pay amounts. So here you can see total base pay amount. Let us look at what is it. The base pay of employees, primary job. This is a sum of employees' compensation element that are considered a base pay. So let us see if we use this, is it going to give us the base pay? So let me run this report. See, the requirements would come very simple like this. Hey Nikhil, I want a report that is going to give me the list of. I want a report to find the list of employees who are, you know, who joined. And this is a very simple example that I'm giving. Who joined after a specific date and who are from a specific location. uh, Report would be like this, or a more complicated report. If I go into complication, it would be like, hey, can you create a report that will give the details of all the employees who have a specific compensation plan, and if that compensation plan has been have been assigned as of a specific date. I also want a date filter so that I can change the assignment dates, and the report would automatically adjust based on the dates. So I also have to create a report. I have to add filters, and I also have to add prompt fields on the report so that the person who is executing the report can change the date range. So I want to check the details between this specific date and this specific date. So if I give two different dates, I'll be able to download, extract the details of that report. So the report requirements can vary depending upon, it can get really complicated or it can get really simple. I have created very complicated reports in my career. um, I have created reports that have taken me 20 30 40 hours to build, because some of these fields that you see here, it's not always there might be fields that are not always available, so you might have to create calculated fields in Workday, which is going to take a lot of time. So let's say a field is, these are all delivered fields. If I go to the related actions of this particular field over here, you will see this is Workday delivered. Now there will be many instances when the client requirements will not be satisfied um, with the delivered fields in Workday. You will have to configure calculated fields in Workday. So that is good. That will require you to have a very good understanding of how different business objects and fields and instances are structured in Workday, so that you know how to pull the exact data from where. Sometimes you'll have to create nested calculated fields, which means that one business object is available in a particular field, but that field is part of a different business object. So you have to pull the data from between two these different objects. You will have to find a common link, and through that field you'll have to extract the details. You'll also have to be very cognizant around the security. So let's say someone has requested a report and I created the report, but when they run the report, they are not seeing anything. That is again because there is a security aspect to it. So the security groups with whom I will be sharing that report. So you see there is a share option over here. So with whomsoever I share this particular report, they should also have access to the data sources and the primary business objects and the fields that are configured on the report. If they do not have the access, they will still be able to run the report, but they will not see the values on the report. They will only see the values or the data for which they have access. So um, yeah, reporting is going I mean, it is not something that you can learn right away after HCM. You should have some experience doing some HCM. You should have some experience on the config part of it, understand Workday a bit more better, and then you can think about doing advanced reporting. So this session I want to take as an introduction to reporting in Workday. I just want to show how the reports are created, what are some of the options that are available, what are some of the configuration options that are available, so that in the future when you start working as a consultant, as an HCM consultant, if there is any custom reports that you have to execute in order for you to diagnose a problem, you should know how to look at those reports. You should understand what does a filter mean, what does a prompt mean, what does an output mean. So these details you should be knowing. Now you remember I just added an additional field called as total base pay. If I go to the related if I go to the related actions of the field, you can see that for every workday delivered field sources, you will also have like a description. So the description says that this is a base pay of the employee's primary job and the sum of all the comp elements that are considered base pay. So we already discussed what a total base pay means. So it is all some of all the compensation all the compensation components that use base pay as the comp element. Now when I run this report, so go to related actions here and custom report, you can see run here. So when I run this report, you are getting all the 146 employees. So if you remember, we have added a filter over here that is only going to extract all the hires who are hired after 1/1/2020. So there are 146 employees who are hired post January 1st, 2020, and you can see these are the compensation plan amounts. So all these employees, for these employees, this is a total base pay. Now some of these employees do not have total base pay. If I open, let's say, this employee, so I'll just open this employee, and let me also open another employee. Let's take this one for example. So first, let us look at the compensation for Arsha here. So you can see the employee has a total base pay of 137,025, and you can see that value in the report. So 137,025. However, if I go to this employee, I don't see any value for this employee. So let us see why we are not able to see any value. So the reason is this employee is a contingent worker. So contractors will not have any compensation. So probably all the employees who are not listed here, who has a zero, would probably be a contingent worker. So let us say I want to create a report that is only going to give me the list for the employees, and I don't want any contingent workers in the report. So I can also add an additional filter like this that says employee. There's a employee type is only no, it's actually worker type. So I want to say worker type is employee. So if I say worker type is employee, it will only extract the details of workers who have the worker type as employee. So it will not extract contingent workers. You can say it has further reduced the list, and you can see now almost all the employees still have a value. Now there is one employee for whom there is no value. Let us see why this employee has no value. Probably because his employee is now a terminated worker. Yeah, I was right. So if an employee is terminated, they won't be able to see the compensation. Although they have a compensation, but this is a compensation of the past. This employee is no longer working, so it would show zero amount. So I want to also remove employees who are not active. So let us again go back to the report, edit this report. I can add an additional filter over here that will say that, okay, I want all the employees who are active. So I can say active status is equal to true. So you can say active status is equal to true. If I select this checkbox, it says active status is true. If I keep this as blank, it will say active status is false. So I want all the employees who are active, and the worker type should be employee, and the hire date should be greater than or equal to January 1st, 2020. Now when I execute this particular report here, now this report is going to give me a list of all the employees who are currently working. So all of these employees are active. Now let's say your client wants an option to change. So hey, I want the option to not just so here I am hard coding it. So I'm saying that hire date is greater than or equal to a specific date. I'm saying that worker type is employee, and I'm saying active status is equal to yes. Now, the client wants the ability to change this at the time of executing the report. Let's say at the time of executing the report, I want to provide a specific date. I want to select the worker type, and I want to select the active status. So I don't want to hard code it in the filter. So what would you do in that case? In that case, I'll say that, okay, I'll say greater than equal instead of giving value specified in this filter, I'll say prompt the user for value this way. So I'll say all prompt user for value. Okay, now I have added prompts here saying that it will prompt user for value. And if I go to the prompts over here and if I select prompt undefined defaults, you will see these are the prompts that the employee who will be executing the report will see. So it will see the worker type, it will see the hire date, and it will see the active status. Now when I execute this report, you would see that these details will first pop up when you are executing. So it is asking you, okay, select the worker type. All right, I want to select contingent worker, hire date, so greater than or equal to. Now you don't know if it is greater than or equal to, you are just seeing hire date, so we'll fix it. This is again part of optimization and part of how we are presenting the report. So here you have to tell the person who is executing the report hire date greater than or equal to, so that they know that the date that they are selecting is going to be used as a greater than or equal to filter. So I'll say 0101 um, 2022. Okay, and active status, so I want all contingent workers hired after 2022, those who are active. So if I execute this report now, you see there are 35 employees, and all these employees are contingent workers, and you can see the hire dates over here, and the total base pay is always zero because these employees are all contingent workers, and the reference ID is over here. So this way you can also add additional filters and prompts on the worker. Yeah, let's say you want to change the prompts. Okay, you want to use the same prompts, but you want to change the way the prompts are presented. So here I want to say choose worker type, hire date, I'll say greater than or equal to active, yes, no. So I am adding an additional label from the prompts over here. And let's say at the time when the report is being executed, when before even you choose the prompt, I want to also provide some default prompt. So here you can see specify the default value. So what would happen? I'll just remove this one as default, determine at runtime. And here I will say specify default value. So the default value over here, I'm saying I want to choose both. I want to choose both employee as well as contingent worker. Hire date, I'm not giving any default value, and the active status is yes. And if you want to make sure that all these fields are entered before they execute the report, I can also make these fields as a required value here. Now, when I execute this report, okay, I cannot provide no default value. Okay, required. So hire date has no default value. For other two fields, we have a required. We have a default value specified and marked as required. Now, when I execute this report here, you can see that we have mentioned employee types, worker type over here. So you can see the custom label, choose worker type. So I'll say I just want all the employees, hire date greater than or equal to. So I can choose the hire date greater than or equal to this particular date, and active status is yes or no. If I try to execute this as it is, it will say that this particular field is important. So you can see there is an asterisk. The reason we have an asterisk is because we have mentioned that the hire date is a required field over here. Now, suppose the client has an additional other requirement. It says that, hey, Nikhil, I want this report and I want that prompt to choose the hire date. However, I have an additional requirement. One is I don't want that prompt to be a required value, meaning I should be able to skip that particular value. Okay. Now, second thing is, let's say I am not giving any hire date as a filter. So if I do not give hire date as a filter, Workday should ignore that particular filter, which means that, let's say I am not giving a hire date or greater than or equal to a specific date as a hire date. Workday should entirely ignore this filter as it is, because if I just keep it this way, I'm just going to say that this is not a required field. I execute this report as it is without giving a value in the higher field. Let's see what happens. So employee, I'll just choose it and hire and run the report as it is. You'll see that it does give me a list of employees this way, but it is not consistent. You have to make sure that you add an additional detail over here that says that if you are not going to give a particular value in the filter, you have to Workday should ignore that particular filter. So there is another comparison type over here: prompt user for the value and ignore the filter condition if the value is blank. So if your customer says that I want a filter with a prompt, but I don't want it to be required, so in that case, you will give this particular value. Now, when I run this report, you'll see that initially it had given me like what's 583. If I run it as it is, you'll see that 583 results. But if I go and add a filter over here like this, 01012021, if I add a filter, it will it will use that filter. So I have the ability to use a filter or not use a filter. So these are some of the customization options that are available on the report. You can add business objects, you can add fields, you can sort the output of the report, you can add filters, you can add prompts. Now what do you want as an output? So currently the default output is a table output. Okay, however, you have some chart options over here. Again, this is part of advanced reporting, so I'm not going to go into a lot detail, but you have different types of charting options available on the report. So let's say you want a bar chart or a pie chart. Let me show you a very simple one. So if I go and edit this report, I'm going to create, like, I'll just remove all these details. Okay, so in the output, if I say I want a chart output, you have these chart options. So you want like a clustered column or a stacked column or 100%. So there are a lot of options available here. Let's say I want a donut chart. If I say a donut chart, and if I run this report, you see Workday is going to give this entire report on a chart basis. Now, this is not a very easy way to view the report. However, you can see that for different values, it is showing a different color. So maybe you can also change the charts over here. So if you want like a line chart or a bubble chart or a clustered column this way, you can have that. So you can see that this is the employee number. So I just gave you just an example of how you can create different charts. Now it will depend upon your requirement and your client asking. So this is not a very good example actually, but this is how you create a chart. You can convert a report into chart. Now there might be cases where a chart will make easier for you to understand a report. For example, if you want to look at the gender, let us create a bit better report using this chart. So let's say I'll just remove the total base pay. Instead, I'll put gender here. All right. So here in the output, I'm going to use a chart option here. I'll say, okay, donut chart. Let us run this. I also have an option to give both table and chart. So let's just use both table and chart options here. Let me see, series for legend. There is no specific, years of knowledge. So I have, it depends on how quickly you are able to pick up the um, your understanding of Workday. I had a junior resource straight out of college in my team. Um, she got certified in advanced reporting pretty fast, and she was able to create reports and deliver those. So it's not difficult per se. So if you are working on reporting for maybe 1 or 2 months, you should be able to pick up a lot of details and start and understand how to create these reports. It's not that difficult. Now, this particular report, I need to provide a series for legend. I am going to check this out maybe tomorrow. So you cannot have every type of chart. There are certain charts you can use for certain type of report. I mean, certain type of data. So if you don't have enough data, it would not give. So let me maybe I should add some more detail over here. Never got this error before, so I'm just going to check the reason for this error. However, just ignore this one. For now, I'm just going to use table as the output. In the share option, you will be able to define different shares. So either you don't want to share this report, meaning this report will only be available for you. Nobody else can access this report. Um, Share with all authorized users. So all authorized users are users who have access to this particular data source. So if you want to share it with those users, you can use all workers. Share with all authorized users. If you want to share it with specific users, so you can say specific security groups, like I want to share this with all HR admins, and I want to share this with a specific person like Tom. So this way you can also share it with different people. So I can have multiple people here like John, Tom. I can select different people here. I can also select different security group like this. Okay, so you have these three different share options, and then it will show who owns this particular report. If I go to advanced tab, then you have certain advanced options, like if you want to enable it as a web service, if you want to enable save parameters. So these are all advanced options. um, Otherwise, what you have to understand is these columns. So what are some of the columns, like how you can enter details in this field here, how to sort the report, how to add the filters, how to add different prompts to the report, and what are the output options, and how you can share this particular report with anyone. So if you understand this, you should be able to create or even understand some of the custom reports. Now you can go back to your tenant, and your tenant should have a lot of custom reports. You all should be having report administrator access. So you can just go to view custom report and search for a custom report and check out some of the custom reports that are created in your tenant. Tomorrow we'll look at this particular problem, like when we change this to um, a chart, why is it giving me this error where I have to enter a series for the legend? So I'm going to look into these. I'll just check this out tomorrow and give you a better understanding of how you can convert a report into a chart, or what are some of the chart options that are available.